This is More Than Work, the podcast reminding you that your self-worth is made up of more than your job title. Each week, I'll talk to a guest about how they discovered that for themselves. You'll hear about what they did, what they're doing, and who they are. I'm your host, Rabiah. I work in IT, perform stand-up comedy, write, volunteer, and, of course, podcast. Thank you for listening. Here we go. Hey everyone, thanks for joining More Than Work this week. I'm really excited because today I'm actually heading to a podcast festival here in London. I'm going to see my friend Claire, who runs the Creativity Found podcast, and you'll hear an episode that she and I did together of her podcast coming up. We're going to do my first feed drop here. I'm also going to get to see Rich Wilson from Insane in the Man Brain and Rosie Wilby from Breakup Monologues, plus a bunch of other things. So it's going to be a fun day. This week I have a person who started out studying philosophy actually in college, and then she is now going back to school to get her master's in writing. And she's going to talk about how she got to that decision after spending time doing graphic design and video editing. But it's another great episode just around someone finding their calling and pursuing it. And I hope it inspires you. Lately, I've been kind of re-upping my game in comedy, really, and also on the podcast because I'm doing some things differently in the back end that you won't notice because they're really around marketing and stuff. But with comedy, I'm writing more and trying to enjoy every performance I do. And that's something that happened recently where I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I'm trying to find a way to do that because otherwise, why do the hobby? But I think it shows, too, that we can be pursuing our dreams and then realize maybe our dreams have shifted a little bit in that time. So anyway, there's just a lot to think about, I guess, or maybe I'm just thinking about a lot, but I hope you enjoy this episode when you get to know the guest Jazeen, and let me know what you think. Of course, I would love for you to rate and review and follow the podcast as well, but you know that. Let's go. Hey everyone, so my guest is Jazeen Hollings, and she is a writer, artist, and future ghost. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm just reassured that you're a future ghost and not like a present.
Not a present ghost.
Yeah, I would definitely insist that this was video then, because you wouldn't even show up probably, so that'd be amazing.
There's proof that there's life from the beyond.
Exactly. I would just see your microphone floating around. And
yeah, I mean, that would be sweet. I feel like that would be a much better podcast.
It'd be really fun, to be honest, but we don't have that. So anyway, where am I talking to you from?
Just outside of Toronto, Canada.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there another Toronto?
I think there's one in the States.
I didn't even know that. I live in England now, and so I see a lot of names that are also in the States for sure, but I know why that happened, obviously,
Yeah.
But yeah, well, cool. Well, I'm glad to have you here. So first of all, you're a writer and artist, but that's not your full-time gig. So maybe let's talk about your full-time gig is and then go into what you're doing. That's more than work as it is.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a video editor. I do a lot of like commercial, corporate. Was lucky enough to do some short films. Recently cut like a trailer, which was really fun. So I do get to do some fun stuff in my money job, but most of it is corporate. So it's kind of just, cutting real estate commercials and stuff like that. Not as creative as I'd like, but it's fun. Yeah.
Well, so the trailer you did, was it a trailer for a feature?
A trailer for a web series. It's like a period piece, kind of like Peaky Blinders or like Bridgerton, but it's like an indie Toronto Canadian version of that. But it was still fun. Trailers are fun to cut.
Yeah, that seems fun because you're telling the story very quickly, but not giving too much away. So you have to really decide. And how'd you get into video editing?
At school, I was taking graphic design, and then I took like a motion design class. So it was like kinetic typography and like animation and After Effects stuff. And I really liked that. And then after doing that for a little bit, I started doing more video editing stuff because that's what people asked me to do. So I was like, oh, cool. Okay, let's learn Premiere. Let's learn, how to do that. And just kept doing it because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I love film, like definitely one of my passions. But yeah, I just didn't have too much direction. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can like set my own rate, which is nice, and just kept doing it until fell in love with screenwriting. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to write. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that kind of brings you to now. I mean, I guess you had some big news relatively recently about what you're going to do with writing.
Yeah, so I applied for my MFA in creative writing because I just wanted to transition full time into writing and have some real guidance, I think, because being self-taught at something, you get to a point where you're just like, yeah, I would love like some intensive, like hardcore guidance and feedback and just to kind of take it to the next level. So yeah, I applied to a bunch of MFA programs in Canada and I got into the University of British Columbia MFA program, which I should not have. I just want to say that because one, my grades were not as good as they should have been from school. And the other reason being I had totally like messed up on my application and didn't send them a transcript when I should have. And I had to like frantically email them and be like, I'm so sorry, but I messed up. So I definitely thought that there was like no chance. So, but you never know. So you might as well try.
Yeah. And if you make a mistake, just kind of own up to it, right? And just try to say, this is what happened. That's easier to understand than, oh, no, I did attach it and you didn't get it or something weird.
Yeah. You can't really lie through a computer that way.
No,
like it's either there or you didn't do it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you just forgot. And because sometimes I've been late with something before and I've just said, well, I forgot. So can I still do it or not? And then it's like, no, it wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Okay. Or yeah, go ahead. So
yeah. People are actually really like receptive to the truth. Like when you just tell them, yeah, I totally just forgot. They're like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So I don't have to do my creative writing for this, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, that's some big news.
That's very cool. And congratulations. So you'll be going full time to school?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
When you did your undergrad, what did you study?
So I did graphic design at OCAD University, and then I did 2 years before that at U of T, University of Toronto, for philosophy, which, super useful degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and art history both really make parents happy about student loans and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, very worth it.
Yeah. Okay, and so you didn't finish the philosophy degree?
No, I transferred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but that's good. It's good to know you don't want to do something and just to stop doing it if you can, really.
Yeah, like I liked philosophy. It was just very clear that it's a little bit depressing to study it full time. And then at the end of the day, it's like, well, what can I do with this? And at the end of the day, I just wasn't like passionate about it. Like I wasn't going to get my PhD in it. I wasn't going to devote my life to the meaning of existence. So I just called it quits and I was like, all right, let's go make stuff instead.
Yeah. So did you do art or any kind of art before you went to the graphic design degree, or was that your first time really creating, I guess, visual art?
I had always been into like drawing and painting as a kid and like through high school for sure. I was always doing that even when I was really young as well, like just always making something, I think. And yeah, I just think that I got a little bit derailed. And in high school, like everyone was going to traditional universities and degrees, and they were kind of like planning out their future, their 10-year plan when you're like 17, which is insane. And I just felt like pressure to do the same thing, I think. And I definitely didn't listen to myself at all. Because if I had, I probably would have just been writing and making art since a teen, but I just, didn't. Wasn't strong enough, I guess. I just didn't. So that's the reason why I went to university, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it's the acceptable path. It's the accepted path, right? For everyone, I think. I mean, either that or you don't. But I mean, like for me, I didn't have much pressure from my family just because no one had gone to school prior to me. But I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought you need to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was not going to be a doctor. So I was going to be a lawyer, and I studied political science. And then around my second year, some things happened in my life that changed some perspective for me. But also I just took a writing class that wasn't in my major or anything. I took sociology too, which sounds weird, but like it was social deviance. So it was like,
oh, nice. So yeah, like weird social stuff.
Yeah. And so then I ended up not doing my major for over a year, and I was just focused on writing and that kind of thing. And I'm just saying this to tell you that, and I'm probably 20 years older than you, it was the same thing for me. Like I just didn't do it, and I should have done it because that's what I wanted to do. And I will tell you though, it took me until I was about 40 to realize that that's what I should be doing. And so I'm doing more writing now, but I really am proud of you. I don't know you, but I'm really proud of you for making that
Oh,
decision. Really.
I'm proud of you too. Yes,
Well,
follow your
thank you.
dreams. Go.
It is crazy that at 17 or 18, we're supposed, as people, and now well beyond that, but even kids now, like if parents are listening, like that planning your entire life when you're that age is such a ridiculous thing because you have no idea
So
who you
funny.
are.
I know. It's a joke. Like, I mean, there's the odd person who's just like, yes, I'm going to be X, Y, or Z. And they
Yeah.
have that conviction and that kind of attitude of like, I don't care. Like, nobody's going to stop me. But like, I don't know about you, but I had like zero confidence at 17. Like, I didn't think I ever was going to get it.
No.
So yeah, it's kind of insane how much pressure we put on children because you're still a child at that point.
So as far as screenwriting, you mentioned that that's something you realized you wanted to do, and now you're going to do your MFA. Have you written screenplays already, a full one or parts of them, or?
Yeah, I have a feature, which is great. It took me so long. It was a nightmarish process because I'd never written one before and I didn't know what I was doing. And I had like 8 or 9 drafts until it made sense. I finished that about a month ago. And then I just had like maybe 3 or 4 like short screenplays finished as well. So just testing the waters and like seeing what kind of stuff I want to make and like, what's the process like and what are the pitfalls and all that kind of stuff. And you definitely don't figure it out until you figure it out, until you just do it. So, but really great experience though, really rewarding, and maybe one day it will get made into something or it will just be a script forever.
Yeah. Did you have an idea before you sat down to write the whole thing, or what was your process like? Or was it just building the story as you went? And how was that for you?
Yeah, for this one, I just had like an opening image in my head and the song to go with the image. You can't really promise a specific song in a script because of like rights and money and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But this one started with just like an opening image and like a doo-wop song to go over it. And just the story kind of unfolded from there of how did we get to this point, essentially. Mm-hmm. But they all kind of start different ways. It's usually an image though, for sure, where it's like, oh, like that's freaky. Let's investigate that. Yeah.
That's cool. And then in your MFA, are you going to focus on screenwriting or just writing in general, or?
Yeah, so they have like a bunch of different courses. It's divided into like a thesis project, so a major project, and then coursework. So there's lots of different genres that they offer, which is great because, I love writing fiction as well, and I love doing poetry. So those are definitely genres that I would love to do as well, included with screenwriting. So I definitely like writing all things, not necessarily screenplays. And that's just because I feel like certain stories need different formats. A lot of the times I think very visually and I think in terms of film. So those stories just go right into the screenplay idea pile. And then other stories are like, you know what? I would love to have more than 120 pages to dedicate to this idea.
Yeah.
So that goes in the fiction pile and so forth and so on. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And then as far as your art and you being an artist, I mean, what kind of art do you do, first of all? Graphic design only, or do you do physical painting and stuff like that now?
Yeah, so I paint, but I guess I call myself an artist more so in the fact of like I do a variety of different things. So not necessarily just visual art, but like I would consider like you an artist as well because you do comedy. And that's an art. That's an art form. I feel like anyone who does something that's, really creative, it doesn't necessarily have to mean it's a visual art thing. It's like, it's more of an attitude or a lifestyle or just a way of being, I guess. But I do paint for fun, but just for fun.
It's interesting that a lot of your ideas come to you visually though. And versus another. I mean, I don't know how everyone's ideas come to them anyway. I guess for me, because I'll write different things, but I love nonfiction for some reason and always have, I guess ever since I discovered The New Yorker. I don't know if you've read it, but there's just amazing, interesting stories in there that almost read like fiction sometimes because they're just done beautifully. Right. So I'll just think of an idea though, but not necessarily a visual idea. So I like to hear how you're doing it in that way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so do you draw from like a lot of like real experiences? Because I know comedy is very much like that, where it's like
Yeah.
you kind of have to just draw on your own personal experiences, and that's interesting that you like nonfiction because maybe that's just like, real
Yeah.
life is very inspiring to you.
Yeah, true. And even films that I like and shows. And my mom, we were watching, I mean, I don't know if you've seen This Is Us, but it's a drama, like a family drama show. And my mom was like, "Oh, it was almost too real, like just watching real people this one episode recently." And I investigated more about it, and I found the one actress had contributed to writing it. It was mostly about
Mhm.
her character, and then Mandy Moore had directed it. So it was a female director, but also her who's very invested in the show. And so I thought, and it was a different episode than other ones. You could see the difference, but I like that it seemed real because I always like that things feel real, but to the point where they're almost too raw. But I think that's cool,
Right.
you know?
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely the same way. I love maybe just like pushing it to a point where it is extremely vulnerable and extremely raw because
Mm-hmm.
that's where all the good stuff is. I don't know if you've seen Fleabag.
Yes.
Yeah. But like her stuff, she just
Mm-hmm.
like takes like the way she writes is like she just takes a knife and like stabs you and then like twists it like
Yeah.
every, I don't know, every beat or every half a show or have like full episode or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can tell that that's like coming from a real place.
Yeah. It's rough because she'll say things and it's like, well, maybe I've thought that I would never have said it or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And I think too, some of the best comics and people I admire and things I try to do, I don't do much shock or very vulgar or anything as far as comedy, but I've enjoyed working on things that like around mental health, for example, is one subject I'm playing with just because I've had experiences with difficulties there. And then with chronic illness and things like that are hard to do in a 5-minute set. I have to do like a longer set and a show in a way to get that out.
Mhm.
But it's fun to me because I don't like talking about it necessarily, but I do think that there's an importance in sharing those things and I'll talk about them in the context of trying to help other people or something, but then on stage there's funny things about it. There's funny things about certain stuff that maybe doesn't seem funny on the surface. And so I think that's fun, and I think that that's the part where people say, well, artists are dark or comics are always have a dark side, and I think it's true, but I think it manifests in different ways.
Totally. And I think I'm somewhat similar to you in that respect of like, I definitely gravitate towards darker things just because I feel like they're more real or
Mm-hmm.
they feel more real or they feel like there's these things that people just don't want to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, comedy and, in regards to your stand up is such a great way to shove something in someone's face and be
Mm-hmm.
like, look, like this thing actually exists. It's real. And by the way, it's also a joke because everything is a joke on some level, I think. But yeah, I love the dark stuff. I think it's like very close to home.
I think you can have both in the same thing, kind of like what you're just saying about comedy, but even in a screenplay or something, like you can have the characters that are depressed or that have some kind of maybe personality flaw or something, but it can also be funny, but it's different when it's like you're trying to make it so they're all happy all the time because that's so unrealistic. Even that person that's always happy all the time. And I think the biggest thing to me is like almost thinking about people as their Facebook profile versus real life.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like my Facebook profile looks very different than my life does. And people
Yeah.
will say, "Oh, I'm so jealous." And someone said that to me recently. I went on a trip and I'm so jealous. And in my head I was going, "You're jealous of what?" Because like that I'm there, but what about everything else? And I know you wouldn't possibly even go alone. So you're not jealous. So I'm here by myself for one thing. And I know that's not your deal. But then I thought there's all this other stuff going on they don't know about. And I almost like how in a movie or jokes or whatever, you can say, yeah, here's this person who also has all this going on. And they can be 3-dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah. The three-dimensionality is I feel like where you get like the real stories. I'm recently finished the show Barry.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Hader's show. And, he's a hitman who is lost and doesn't know what to do with his life and stumbles across like an acting class.
Yeah.
And he realizes that acting is what he wants to do with his life. And it's just so explorative of like how we all kind of feel
Mm-hmm.
very unhappy in a lot of ways until we kind of find the thing that brings our life like purpose.
Yeah. So thinking about just what we've learned about you is that you're pursuing this philosophy degree, then decided to go and get out of that and do the graphic design, and then now you've been doing this video editing job, which you do enjoy. You've expressed that you do enjoy it, but you have this passion writing, so now you're getting out of that and going into the writing. And so those are two kind of, I would say, pretty major pivots in your life. How did you feel making those decisions? And if you can talk about making those changes to pursue what you want, because that's a really bold thing to do.
Yeah, I guess with video editing, it was just like, oh, I'm doing this now. And I actually didn't really think too much about it. It was just like, oh, this is something that's semi-creative that, you know, won't make me want to jump off a building, essentially. Because I think that if I worked in an office over time, that's what would happen. And then when I fell in love with screenwriting, it was just like this moment of like, holy shit, like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, it was extremely terrifying because it was like, well, I spent all this time doing this other thing. And obviously, like the age thing comes into play where it's just like, oh, you're not 16 and you're not really attractive. So, like, how could you possibly live your dreams? Which is insane.
Well, that's
I
insane
realize,
anyway, but yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
realize
untrue.
it's very untrue. So yeah, I mean, you could do whatever you want at any age. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
But it was this really weird thing of I want to live all of these different lives and like be all these different people and experience all these different things. And then writing is a perfect way to do
Mm-hmm.
that because you can literally just make up any story that you want and craft it, and you can be different people and explore different problems and explore humanity, and you know, you can make it funny or you make it scary. Just so many options. But it wasn't until writing for 2 years, I think, until I was brave enough to actually be like, hey, I want to make money at this. I want this to be my life. And I mean, I don't need to get famous or make millions of dollars or anything. I just would like to support myself
Mm-hmm.
doing something that I love. And that's my main goal. It didn't feel like a choice when I decided to do it, to pursue it full time and to try to get really good at it. It felt like I had to do it. And it still feels like I have to do it. If I don't write every morning, my whole day is messed up and I'm not happy. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like I have to do it.
Huh. Yeah. And so that's your writing. That's part of your writing practice, writing every morning? Do you do free writing or?
I do. So sometimes I journal, like when I have to get some stuff out, but like whatever piece I'm working on, I like to dedicate an hour every morning to it, no matter what, because that's the only way that it will get done, I think.
Yeah.
With life around. Yeah.
Well, I always feel like the morning is the only part of my day I can control.
Right.
You know?
Totally. Yeah.
And in a way, I get frustrated if someone calls me or writes to me or something. I'm like, what? Like, this was my time, and now you've intruded on it, you know? And that's not fair to whoever does that, but it's just for me, it's like, this is the time I have that no one's supposed to be bothering me. Of course, I can put my phone down, but you know, that's another thing, right?
Yeah. Like, how dare you encroach on my boundary?
Yeah. That you don't know about, that I'm not respecting.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've thought about that a lot. And I think it's like a self-trust thing. I feel like it actually has nothing to do with other people or the outside world, because I would get really pissed off if someone was ruining my writing time, air quotes. And it's just like, wait a second, it's not them. It's me being like, if I don't have this, I'm not going to make something. But that's not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't know why creative people get crazy.
For real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
when people interrupt them. So I definitely think it's more of an us thing.
Yeah, totally.
Them thing.
And it's just like, then just don't have my phone out, or just don't be logged into something. It's very simple. Anyway, if I really don't want to be interrupted, I can prevent that from happening. I live alone. I mean, if someone breaks into my flat, that's another issue. You know?
Yeah. How dare you ruin my creative morning time?
Yeah. Just take what you want, but please be quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
So you do have some writing on your website though, and some blogs and stuff. So can you talk a little bit about what you choose to put out publicly?
It's whatever resonates, I think. Yeah, it's weird because for a long time I was very much just like, okay, let's decide. Let's make a plan and make topics and be very logical about it and have a spreadsheet. and
Yes.
now I'm just like, if I feel like writing about it, that's what I write about. And
Okay.
that's my baseline for
Yeah.
what gets out. Yeah.
Yeah. I do know someone who has spreadsheets for a lot of things. And I feel very seen right now, but also very attacked. Just kidding.
Are you a spreadsheeter? I was for a very long time.
I am. I am, and you filled in a Google form, and
I did.
and then that goes
Great.
into a spreadsheet, which is super fun for me. and I have a spreadsheet for my comedy, so I know exactly how many gigs I've done and how long I've spent on stage. And
well, I think for that makes sense because that's like I know you're keeping track of all the things, right? But I feel like when you come up with a joke, you probably don't have a spreadsheet of potential jokes. So it's more just like you're walking down the street and you're just like, oh, that's hilarious.
And then that goes in notes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's write that down right now.
And it's very unorganized. And there's like probably 200 notes that have weird thoughts. Like if someone ever opened up my notes and saw what I've written down, most recently it's plus size nudist ? And I can't make it work. That. I can't make it work. I have not. But I know it's something there because that statement's funny, but you can't just go on stage and say that and that's it.
Yeah, but the idea that like, you're like, there's something there somewhere.
There's something there. So no, but that's really cool that you've just kind of figured out over time what you want to do and are pursuing it. And I think that's so important. And I like how for you it's not a choice at some point. And I think that that's the mistake some people make is that they have this calling to do something, but then they somehow rationalize it like they can't possibly choose to do that. And I don't think you have to make a living at writing, even if you want to write or if you want to do comedy, which we talked way too much about on this episode since it's about you. If you want to do art, if you want to do whatever, you have to find a way to do it in your life. I mean, do you agree that even if you're not doing it full time, there should be a way you make space? Like you said, for an hour every morning you write, for example, right now.
Yeah, I feel like you have to make space for the things that you love. Or else it's like, what are we doing on this planet? Our job is not to go work a 9 to 5 for somebody else so that we can make money and have a crazy amount of things and a crazy amount of space. For some people, maybe that is what gets them excited every morning. But just for me personally, it's just like, if I don't have something that I'm working on that I can express myself with or investigate something or work at, then I just don't feel like I'm alive. And I know that sounds insane, but yeah, I guess that's why for me, it's just not really a choice, even if I don't make money at it. Cause like I've been writing for 2 years. I haven't seen a cent. And it's like, that should deter someone from not doing something, but that's the only thing that keeps me going.
Yeah. So as far as we've talked quite a bit about what's worked for you, but is there any advice or mantra that you just like to share with people or something that you've come across that's been helpful to you?
Yeah, I guess like my mantra has been be afraid, but do it anyways. That's my mantra. And I think that, I would tell that to anybody. Yeah, be scared, because if you're not scared, then you're probably not doing something that's open and real. But be scared and then just do it. Just figure out a way to do it.
I talk to a lot of people about getting on stage and do you get nervous every time? Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. And it's like, do you get worried when you publish a piece? Of course. Yeah. Because it's going to be seen and people might have an opinion on it that's not great or that is great. It's almost scary to do it well sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because before the pandemic, I had done like a Second City stand-up course. And I had done like maybe 10 shows. Like I wouldn't call myself a stand-up person, but I did 10 shows, and there's nothing more nerve rattling than telling a joke and nobody laughing. And it's a special skill to be able to put yourself out there over and over and over again, hoping for a certain response and getting a completely different one. And that's the fear that I think a lot of artistic people have to push through like every single time. Maybe, yeah, a lot of them, probably not all of them. I'm sure there are amazing, incredible people who are just like, don't care.
Yeah.
And I envy those people. But
well, yeah, because when you share writing too, right? I mean, it's not just performance, but it's when you share writing, or you share maybe even with your video editing. I mean, you send it to someone and they may have feedback you don't like. I mean, I know one of my best friends in the world is a graphic designer, and then I have other good friends who are too. And I don't know how they do it, because I mean, in the sense that they have to get negative feedback constantly for good work. And I don't know how someone does that. I don't think I have the constitution to handle that, because I'd be like super annoyed all the time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you get to a point where you just like turn it off. Like you just turn off like the like, I'm going to take this personally switch in your brain. You just turn it off. Some of them are so funny when you're working with like business people who know nothing, absolutely nothing about how things should look. And you'll give them something and you'll pour hours into it. And you're like, oh, this looks sick. And they'll come back and they'll just be like, okay, here's something really funny. Okay, here's something really cool that we should do. We should make the font Comic Sans.
Oh, God.
And I'll just be like, okay, you can either get upset, or you can just be like, yeah, totally. By the way, I'm going to charge you an extra whatever for that. And I'm going to at least make money.
Yeah. I feel like Comic Sans should just be called Tragic or something. Like, they should redo it. Right? And be like, okay, this is not a funny font because too many people have taken it seriously. So it's no longer.
It's like your life is over font. Like, this is what you use when it's done. It's gone.
It's horrible. It's a horrible font. All right. So then I have a set of questions called the Fun Five that I just like to ask everybody.
Okay.
So the first one, what is the oldest t-shirt you have and still wear?
Yes. The oldest t-shirt I have and still wear is a t-shirt from a Pixies concert from 11 years ago, I think. And it, like, the collar is like deteriorating, and I think, like, I don't know, the print on it is like, you can't even tell that it's a Pixies t-shirt, but I just love it so much, and I'll never let it go.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So if every day was really Groundhog's Day, like it's felt for a lot of the last couple of years, because we had to be in our homes, what song would you have your alarm clock play every day?
So I think something that would be really funny for like other people to witness, but maybe not for me to wake up to every morning, would be Beautiful Day by U2, but just like just the chorus. So it would start with like, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
But just for the rest of my life.
That would get annoying.
That would be horrible. Yeah. I think it'd be worth it.
So, all right, coffee or tea or neither?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
That's smart.
It used to be coffee all day, and it was not a good time.
Yeah. Do you like any specific kind of tea?
Chamomile, just like a chill. Yeah, something to just wind me down.
Nice. All right. Can you think of a time you laughed so hard you cried, or something that just makes you kind of crack up when you think of it or interact with someone?
Yeah. So recently my boyfriend and I have been watching Storage Wars. I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like people bid on storage lockers and they try to like outbid each other and like try to figure out how much their wares are worth. And it's the stupidest reality show I've ever seen. But the theme song is this super American country, like gritty, bluesy, like, yeah, like we're in America. And the lyrics of it and the melody are like, money owns this town. As I go throughout my day, like I'll be sending an invoice and I'll be like, money owns this town. Just, it's the stupidest thing ever, but that's what makes me laugh right now.
Great. Yeah, I know. It's like, I mean, I'm from America, and some of the things that we put on TV for people to watch just amaze me. And then we wonder why people think certain things about us, you know? All right. And then the last question, who inspires you right now?
So for me, people usually don't inspire me. And I know that sounds conceited and weird and horrible. But it's actually mostly just everyday things or like situations or like things that happen to me that maybe inspire a story or inspire me to write anything. I would say that like some of my favorite authors are Margaret Atwood or Alex Garland, who writes a lot of sci-fi stuff. He's a director as well. He did Ex Machina and Annihilation and all those sorts of things. Stephen King, I actually really look up to his work. I know a lot of people kind of dismiss him as just like a genre writer. You know, he's like, it's just horror and sci-fi and whatever. But he's put a lot of himself in a lot of his work in really interesting ways. Like The Shining, for example, is actually about like his kind of his addiction to alcohol and also the fear of him pushing his family away because it's getting in the way of his writing, like his work. Obviously, it's a very severe, a severe metaphor for that, but he puts a lot of his own fears into his work. And I think that's really, really brave. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Oh, that's great. And I didn't know that about Stephen King. I have read some of his stuff a long time ago, and yeah, just because you're in a genre doesn't matter. And I actually read Handmaid's Tale. I didn't read the next book. I think it's on my Kindle right now waiting, but that was incredible to read.
Yeah. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, and just I read it after watching the show, and so then it changed my view of the characters so much, actually. Even though it was a lot shorter, it was just text that was a lot shorter and more concise than two or three seasons. I don't know how many seasons have been of the show, but it was really amazing how in so few words she got these characters to be so real, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they're just making like so many incredible shows right now. Like Handmaid's Tale, for example. Like the book is great and deals with a lot of like kind of really scary themes, but the show, in my opinion, is maybe even more bleak and hits way home. Like it hits home way more, I think. So yeah, but she's great. I love Margaret Atwood. She's Canadian, which is great too.
All right, cool. So if people want to find you, where do you want them to go?
Yeah, they can check out my poetry on Instagram at Jazeen _____. It's just like a long line after my name. There's my website. You can like check out some of my art there. It's jazeen.com.
Super. All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. So thanks for being on More Than Work.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome talking about all this fun stuff and also hearing about your comedy. I just have like this really weird obsession with comics because I think what you guys do is so hard.
Yeah. I feel like, I've talked more about it than I usually do, but that's okay. People can enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the guest and what was talked about in the show notes. Joe Maffia created the music you're listening to. You can find him on Spotify at Joe, Maffia. Rob Metke does all the design, for which I am so grateful. You can find him online by searching Rob, Metke. Please leave a review if you like the show, and get in touch if you have feedback or guest ideas. The pod is on all the social channels at More Than Work Pod or at Rabiah Comedy on TikTok, and the website is morethanworkpod.com. While being kind to others, don't forget to be kind to yourself.